Hello and welcome back to Two Dudes, One Barbell. This is episode 38, and today we are discussing how to approach the new year.
Yes.
It's 2022.
Yep.
And
We're ready to go again.
ready to go again. It's time for the New Year's resolutioners to flood the gym, and
Yeah. When will that happen? Do you think that will happen next week?
I reckon it'll gradually happen over the next 4 weeks. Because kids go back to school in February, right? So
Yeah. So people may not have the time yet.
Yes.
People are still on holiday. It's kind of funny when people make New Year's resolutions, right? So it's usually on the 31st, usually pretty wasted, and you're like, next year I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then the first day of the year you spend hungover, right? So,
as far away from taking that first step into the gym or onto a diet as possible.
Yeah. But
Yep.
I mean, jokes aside, I mean, I just think that's funny. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's still a good step. I think people should be making these decisions and
Yeah. While
what-
drunk? Is that-
well, I mean, you're gonna make these decisions whether you're drunk or not, right? So
Hopefully, yeah.
hopefully you don't have to get drunk to make these decisions.
To make good decisions.
That reminds me of Homer Simpson when he said, "Alcohol is the cause and solution to every problem." That's pretty funny.
That's brilliant.
Probably the wisest thing Homer Simpson ever said.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, I don't know which episode that was, but yeah.
There's so many of them.
Yep.
But yeah, so everyone's setting their New Year's resolutions, right?
Yep.
And they're typically just goals in general. We were discussing this before. So it's just another reason for people to actually set goals. Probably the only call to action that people get throughout the year, right?
Yeah, where it's sort of inbuilt into the event.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't do that during Christmas or Easter or
No, you don't get to your birthday and go set some goals for 20 whatever you're turning.
I mean, some people do.
Some people do.
Some
but
people do.
It's
but-
almost like a socially a social construct of a call to action to get your life sorted every new year.
which is wonderful.
Yeah,
right?
which is wonderful.
Yeah.
There's no other events like that.
Yeah, well, I learnt about Serbian Christmas recently because
Serbian Christmas.
Yeah, which is happening next week.
Enlighten me.
And what they do in Serbian Christmas, tell me if I'm wrong, guys. Sorry, I'm not Serbian. But they walk through a doorway, and the person that walks through the doorway first dictates how the year is going to be. So their Christmas is sort of like a new year, a new start.
Yeah.
Sort of a call to action.
Yeah.
Sort of like Chinese New Year is a call to action as well.
That's the same as a lot of cultures because they didn't have Jesus.
Yeah.
right?
Orthodox Christian, tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Because I know Persians don't really celebrate Christmas. They just have a new year that's in March, and that's it. So there's no Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so Persian, but are they Muslim? They're not.
I'm guessing so.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Some of them aren't. Anyway.
Yeah, some of them aren't, definitely.
We probably need to learn a little bit more before we start talking about it. But anyway, different cultures will have these different points, and we have the New Year because we don't really do it during Christmas. So, yeah, good time to start to make some goals. And today we're going to hopefully help you do that.
I hope, set some good goals. Obviously, our first ever episode of the podcast, we talked about goal setting in depth. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back and listen to that one.
But if you don't want to listen to that one, we're going to give you
A quick run through.
Yeah.
Because we're going to discuss, in the first episode, we discussed the different kinds of goals and what they relate to. Today, we're going to try and set some goals in a little mock goal setting session using those terms.
Then just try and fill it out. So what it would look like rather than just saying, yeah, it's good to set process goals. It's good to set performance goals.
Yeah.
And whether they induce anxiety or not, which is sort of what we talked
that's
about. But
the in-depth explanation. So if you want the background, go back and listen to that one. But in general, we've got 3 different kinds of goals that are 3 different layers to goal setting, right?
Correct.
And so we've got a whiteboard behind us. You guys can't see it on the podcast, obviously, but it'll be up on YouTube. We've got outcome goals, process goals, and performance goals.
Yeah, and they stack on each other. Typically, when you do your resolution, it's going to be an outcome goal, right?
Yeah, the big overarching thing you want to achieve.
The big hairy goal that may not be completely within your control.
Yeah.
So an outcome goal usually has so many variables or has a number of variables that mean that you can only control some of them that give you the best chance to achieve your goal.
Yeah, so you head in that direction, you don't necessarily hit it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's why outcome goals by themselves are not.
Too vague, too uncontrollable, and if you hedge all your bets on it, they can be either devastating or fantastic. But it's like setting out to.
It's like a gamble.
If you set out to write like an award-winning book, or like you're going to sell a million copies, it's like that's not up to you. You can do your best, but
Yeah, you just put yourself in the right situation to
do those things. So you
most likely
you
get it
aim
right.
at that direction.
It's like going to the Olympics, right? If you're an Olympian, you can't ensure a gold medal,
Yeah.
but you can do everything in your power to put yourself in the best chance of getting on the podium.
Yeah, and you do that by setting process and performance goals.
Yeah, and that's what we're probably going to focus on.
Yeah.
And for this mock today, we're going to use a typical goal that people would set in the gym or in terms of people's health or aesthetics even.
Yeah, very common. Like, I'd love to see the statistics on how many people set this goal or something similar going into the gym in the new year.
What percentage of people in the world have
In the
ever
world.
set
Have
this
ever
goal?
said this, yeah.
I think I have said this at one stage. So I'm on one of
You're
the
amongst
statistics.
them? Yeah. So the goal is to lose 10 kilograms.
Yes. And that's a pretty standard goal. And for some people, it's going to be extremely achievable. For
Absolutely.
other people, depending on where we're starting at.
Oh yeah, if you're already like 5% body fat, I doubt you're going to lose 10 kilos, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably not. But let's break it down a little bit. What's good about this goal? We already have a metric.
yep,
So
it's
there's
measurable.
something already measurable about it. So you can just use the scales to work out whether
You're on the right track or
right track.
once you've achieved it.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you just said that you wanted to set the goal of being fitter, it's like, how do you measure that?
Or just losing some fat.
Or losing weight.
Yeah,
It's too vague. At least 10 kilos, we have a parameter.
absolutely.
Now, we do need to address the problem with that goal specifically is what weight are you going to lose?
Oh yeah, so weight on the scale can be anything. You could have a leg removed and you've lost 10 kilos. Like, you've got to be a bit more specific than that.
Yeah.
And it can be, well, it depends on your unit of measurement, right? Because
Correct.
if you're measuring just on the scales, weight's all you can go off, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not to say that weight isn't a decent metric. It's just that fluctuations in weight can be largely to do with fluid as well. So you
Yeah.
could, I could probably lose 5 kilos within the week. I could probably lose 3 kilos within the day.
Don't drink anything, take some laxatives.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
or me just training, I lose probably 1 to 2 kilos
Just from sweating.
from sweating.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So if I just jumped in the sauna as well, I could lose that amount of weight in a day.
Weight in quotation marks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that doesn't equate to what people actually are suggesting, which is lose body fat.
Yeah.
So we want to reframe that or encourage people to reframe that to losing body fat. But then it becomes a little bit more difficult as to how you actually measure that.
Yeah. So you need an actual, either like the scans or a body composition test of some
Yeah.
form.
Yeah,
Right?
and the simplest form, and people who are trained by me or talked to me in the past would know that I love a waist measurement because it's very hard for us to lose or to gain much muscle tissue around our waist.
Yeah.
So if you increase around the waist, it's likely to be fat. And if you lose around the waist,
It's likely to be fat.
it's likely to be fat, but it could also be reduction of bloating, which
Yeah.
is also really good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Either way, if you lose around your waist, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So
So that's a unit of measurement that you can use sort of in tandem with your goal. But how do you equate that to the fat loss goal? Or would you change the goal specifically to the measurement? I'm going to lose 20 centimeters around my waist.
yes, well, that's what I would encourage people to do. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe you've got two goals in tandem. I want to lose this amount of weight and lose this much around my waist.
Yep.
Or you could just say, I want to lose this much around my waist. That would be my push because
That'd be
people
better.
get obsessed about
The scales.
the scales.
Yeah. And I always say to my clients that you need to pick at least 2 units of measurement. Like if you're going to use the scales, back it up with the measurement around the waist, or back it up with some skin folds or a scan,
Yeah.
so that you don't get obsessive over one, and so you have something to back it up against. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are good measurements. They're obviously not perfect, right?
Yes.
So bear in mind, if you were to lose weight circumference around your waist, you may also still lose lean tissue, and we don't want to be losing muscle.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some sort of trade-off. It's very hard for us to get everything perfect. We don't have MRIs for the whole body to work out how much muscle you have, or DEXA scans are usually pretty pricey. So
like $70, $80 a pop, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's not too bad, actually.
It's not too bad, but
Yeah.
how often are you going to be doing that to track your progress?
Well, likely I would only suggest doing a DEXA scan every, like
month?
Month is like too frequent to see changes, I think, in a DEXA scan. So you need to do it like quarterly or
Quarterly. Okay.
6 months.
So you're going to need some kind of unit of measurement to track progress intermittently, like in between those. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's good that we're talking about this, because you could just jump in and be like, I'm going to lose this amount of weight, but then you may not be getting what you actually want through just using weight as your only metric.
Yeah.
So we've got our metric.
We've got our metric. It's measurable.
Yep.
Yep.
And we're going to use that. And how often do you think we should be using that metric to see if we're on our way?
Weight?
Yeah, weight and waist measurement.
It depends on the person. It depends on what they're capable of mentally when it comes to the scales. Like, people that have previously been destroyed by the scales typically use the scales, I want to say, wrong. Because if you jump on once a week, too inconsistent, too many variables, you're going to do your head in with the fluctuations in weight.
Okay.
But if you have the mental capacity to do an average weekly, then you're more likely, and people that do that actually see better results.
Okay.
Yeah.
So averaging out the weekly is probably better for weight, but could be harmful if people become obsessive.
Yes.
So there's a double-edged sword there with weight.
Yeah. So you got to ask yourself the question.
Yeah, you got to be honest with yourself to see if that's going to be detrimental to you even reaching your goal. Because if you're stressed, you are going to likely hold on to more fat and lose more lean tissue. So
yes, the stress's effect on body composition is nuts.
Is pretty intense.
Yeah. Plus, it'll make it harder to stick to all your other goals. Anyway, we're sounding pretty doom and gloom right now.
But if you use a waist measurement, you can do that once a week.
Yep.
I'm really selling this, right? I'm really trying to sell it.
You really want the waist measurement?
Yeah, I
prefer,
think
most of my clients, I do the skin folds with once a week.
Yeah, and that's perfect. If we have someone else that can do skin folds, it's probably a better tool. That's even a better tool than waist circumference, though it could probably be done in conjunction with waist circumference.
The more units of data you have, the better idea of what's going on you have.
Cool. So we're going to measure our waist once a week, and depending on your tolerance to measuring your weight.
Yep, you can do that as well.
Yep.
But have two things running at once, I'd recommend.
Cool.
Yeah,
yes.
Cool. So now we've got our goal, we've got how we're going to measure it, how do we get there?
Yeah, and this is where the process goals come into it, right?
Yeah.
So how do you lose body fat? How do you lose your 10 kilos?
What is the process?
Yeah,
Yes.
what is the process? And what do we need to be doing every week?
And so, like I said,
Possibly
guys,
every
we're
day.
going to break this down and imagine that we're setting this goal for ourselves. And so me and John have done some brainstorming before this. We spent a good 20 minutes writing out a little roadmap on how we would do it, or how a general person would do it in our shoes, basically.
Yes.
Yes. And so we had 3 areas that people should focus on specifically for their process, like what process they needed to achieve to get their goal. And it was sleep, it was nutrition, and it was exercise.
Yep, those are the major areas. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. Like, there's obviously other things you could add in there, like your mental care or something like that.
Well, I think sleep covers that.
Yeah.
And so does nutrition.
Yeah.
Well,
All 3
kind
flow in effect.
of. If you get those 3 right, and then obviously there's going to be life stresses, we don't have control over those.
Yes.
So we're giving you the 3 areas that we have hopefully the most control over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's start with sleep.
Yes.
And priority-wise, guys, obviously nutrition is going to be the biggest driver for fat loss. Like, you can't out-train or out-sleep a bad diet, so that's inevitable. John puts sleep first. First and foremost, and I absolutely agree with him. If your sleep is completely crappy, you're going to make it as hard as humanly possible for you to achieve these goals.
Well, you might lose weight. You can definitely lose weight without sleep. It's just what weight do you lose?
Yeah.
And we were just talking about that before, and we have referenced a paper in the past which compared people who were allocated 5.5 hours sleep to 8.5 hours sleep, and the group that had less sleep lost way more muscle.
Way more muscle. Plus, the effect on your hunger hormones and whatnot is going to make it way harder to stick to the nutrition. So if you can nail your sleep,
You're
ASAP?
you're setting the platform, and that's something.
yeah, then the rest will just fall into place, hopefully, or it'll be a lot easier to do.
It'll be easier to implement the other changes, right?
Yeah.
So
Sticking to it.
That's my approach is sleep first, then nutrition, and then
The exercise.
exercise is probably where we
Yeah.
want to go. Obviously, all three are important, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, so sleep. What's the goal with the sleep? You want to optimize your sleep as best you can. So the process is just setting yourself up for the best sleep you possibly can.
Yes, correct. And so we need to allocate, we've got to think about the quality of sleep and the length of sleep. Now, it's hard for us to change the quality of sleep depending on
The person and their issues.
and that sort of thing.
If someone's got sleep apnea, it doesn't really matter when you go to bed or how nice you make your room, you're gonna suffer.
Yeah, so
Your
you
sleep
might
quality's
have
gonna suffer.
You might need other assistance, like a CPAP machine. If you have sleep apnea, we're not able to diagnose that. You should probably go
Yeah.
to a doctor and that sort of thing. However, for the general population, those people who have probably not that many sleep issues, they just don't allocate enough time. We need to think about when we're going to bed. It's not rocket science. We need to think about when we're going to bed and when we're going to get up. And is that window long enough
Yep.
to get what we want out of sleep?
Yep. And a lot of people come up with the thought, they're like, I can get 5.5 hours or 6 hours sleep, and I'm perfectly fine. It's like, but you could be better.
Correct.
Yep.
I mean, we just gave the example, if your goal is body composition and you think you're going to get that goal in 6 hours of sleep, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to be straight up. If you want to change your body composition, you need
More sleep.
more sleep than 6 hours.
Yep.
So if 8 is unreasonable, get 7.
Yeah. Seven to 9 is like the recommendation, right?
Yeah, and yeah.
When they talk about the amount of sleep you're getting, like a lot of people will say that they can't sleep that long. And well, one of the reasons I used to think I was the same, but that was until I allocated myself a bigger sleep window.
Yep.
And so you just want to allocate a certain amount of hours in bed where you're going to try and sleep, because a lot of people think they can't sleep, but they're just not trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're not. Their mind's distracted by other things, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Yeah.
And so you want to allocate yourself a certain amount of time in bed, just doing nothing, trying to sleep.
Yep.
And then gradually you start filling that out with proper sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, if you allocate the time over a period of 2 weeks, I guarantee you your body will.
You'll start sleeping.
You'll
through
start
that time.
sleeping.
Yeah.
Well, I can't guarantee that, but it increases your chances.
Highly likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So the goals are, and write this down if you got a similar goal. So the goal is to set yourself a bedtime and a wake up time that allow you for 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
correct. And that will depend on you and depend on your lifestyle and what you can actually achieve based off your family and your other
Situations.
requirements.
Yeah.
Now, the hardest one for us usually is the bedtime.
Yes.
So Adam came up with this great suggestion, and we set an alarm for going to bed.
Yep. And I have clients that do that.
Yeah, that's
It
excellent.
wasn't my idea. It was
Oh, really?
one of my clients do it. They have an alarm that sets them to go to bed. I was like, that's actually a smart idea.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea, and I think if you things can get away from you at night, especially considering we have lighting and we have
Yep. You could be watching
technology.
something, you look over, it's 11 o'clock at night, and you're like, oh, I should have been in bed an hour ago. You didn't realize.
I mean, on Saturday night, me and Mel ended up watching like 3 or 4 episodes of Dope Sick
Oh.
to finish off the season.
Yeah.
And then we went to bed at like 12:30, and like this, I mean, I feel like it was worth it, but it's not contributing to my goals.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I just stopped at 1 episode, then I would have got allocated sleep. You got to remember not to let your
Emotions.
let the moment take over, right? Yeah.
Because you're enjoying it, and you're like, I just want to keep this running, but it's not,
It's not conducive
It's not
to
the
your
right choice.
goal long term. Now, it's probably okay if you get to do it once in
Every
a while,
night.
but you
If
need
you're
to
doing it
hit
every
some.
night.
Yeah, you need to hit some consistency before you can allow yourself to do that, I think.
Absolutely. Prove you can do it first.
Yeah.
And then allow yourself some variance. It's the same as I say with dieting. It's like if you're starting a diet and all you can think about is your cheat day to start with, and you can't even prove to me that you can stick to a diet for a week, then we're not going to take the diet any deeper, or like the maintenance phase. Like if you're starting out a diet and you're just seeing what people can deal with, and they can't even stick to a regular diet for a week. They're like, oh, I ate out twice this week. It's like, okay, you're in no position to start dieting until you sort out what's going on in your head.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to talk about that too.
Yes.
Awesome. So sleep, allocating 7 to 9 hour window, allocating a bedtime. We could set an alarm.
Yep.
Make sure it's dark.
Wake up time. And then the other goal for sleep would be to optimize your sleeping environment.
Yeah.
So that looks like getting rid of all unnecessary light pollution, unnecessary sounds, or anything that would disturb you through your sleep.
Yeah. So I wear an eye mask because I'm pretty light sensitive, and my room, there's no way, because I live in a rental house.
Yeah.
I can't change the curtains.
You're trying to block them out.
Yeah. So that's what I do, and also do the mouth taping because I'm terrible at breathing through my nose. But we won't talk about that today.
Other things to optimize your sleep, that little extra bit.
Yeah.
I have blackout curtains, but the curtain on my wall is not long enough, so I've got this gap every morning that comes in and ruins me. Yeah. Sometimes I just hang a towel over it. But
do you want to
really
try eye mask?
I have one somewhere. I was looking for it the other night, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah. I think it's
a great idea too. I was literally thinking about it last night.
Yeah.
Because it always gets me.
Cool.
All right. So that's our sleep goals. Was there anything else? John, want to talk about protein first thing in the morning?
Yeah. So if you're struggling to wake up in the morning, if you need to reset your clock, right? We have a circadian rhythm, and food is definitely part of that. If we have a bolus of protein early in the morning, you can reset when you need to, or when you like to wake up. Another way to do that is to expose yourself to natural light.
Yes.
So
waking up with the sun, or one of those clocks that light up gradually through the morning.
Or just go outside, for goodness sakes.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
And just get some natural light.
Go get some natural light.
You want to tell your body it's daytime.
Yeah, I have the upside of having to take dogs out, right?
Yeah.
So I go outside and then I'm awake because in Queensland we're lucky because there's light in the morning. We're also not lucky, but we're lucky that we have light in the morning. So natural light, a bolus of protein will help you reset.
And
then you should be ready to go.
Yep, so that's a great way to start your morning. Especially, if you throw off your circadian rhythm and it's been trashed for a long time, you can do things to correct it.
Yep.
You should do the right things. So, things that will let your body know the usual times of day.
Yep.
Like sun in the morning, and then allowing it to get dark in the evening. If you've got tons of light going on around you, and you've got the lights on till all hours of the night, and you're staring at screens and stuff like that, your brain still thinks it's daytime.
Yeah.
Which is the purpose of the blue light blocking glasses and stuff like that, so that you can actually start to unwind. Otherwise, you don't produce enough melatonin, your body doesn't push you into sleep, and then people wonder why they can't get to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that's all we'll probably cover on sleep. And once you have that, that's a process goal that you need to work on every day, and it needs to become part of your routine.
Yep. Cool.
And once that's done, that's going to set the foundation for what else we're going to talk about.
Yep. So that's the next area that we want to do is nutrition, of course. And so when it comes to nutrition, the obvious goal for fat loss is to create a calorie deficit, energy in, energy out, typically.
Yep.
And so the method of which you do that is the big question, and it's an individual question, unfortunately, for a lot of people, how they achieve a calorie deficit.
Yes, and the calorie deficit for weight loss or maintaining nutrition over a period of time is just adherence. So what are you likely to stick to?
Yeah.
Is what we need to
figure out.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. And unfortunately, there might be a little bit of trial and error there.
Always,
in terms of what foods are going to be most satiating, most satisfying for you.
What can you stick to? What's easily available, like we talked about last week with Josh. It's got to fit your lifestyle. It's got to be maintainable more than anything.
Yeah, and I quickly looked at some of the literature about time-restricted eating because we were talking about fasting, and I think it's a very useful way to help with calorie restriction, but also seems to have other added benefits to health. So
which John was enlightening me on before we started the podcast.
Yeah, I got pretty excited about this because I looked at a recent meta-analysis, and maybe we could put it in the show notes, or I don't know.
We'll just talk about it.
Or we can just talk about it. In one of my training videos, I talk about it, and it's in the link. And so if you go to the Two Dudes YouTube, I think it's day 8. I talk about time restricted eating, and I've got the.
You got the link in there.
I got the link in
There
there.
we go. So people can find it.
So people should be able to find it. Anyway, what they found with over a number of studies, I think it's 19 that made the criteria. So I can't remember the amount of participants. Sorry, everyone. But there was a reduction in blood triglycerides, which is a predictor of health, right? So the lower they are, typically the better. There was a decrease in body fat in terms of percentage and weight. There was no loss in lean tissue when they restricted eating to a particular window. And there was favorable changes to cholesterol. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
It seems like it helps with health, and just eating in a particular window could be another way that you could restrict calories, right? So it's hitting 2 birds with one stone there.
Yep. And if there's evidence to show that even without caloric restriction, it can make you leaner.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
So yeah,
That's
when you look at the literature, intermittent fasting typically is a restriction in food, like a chop out of one meal, and
You're
then
skipping breakfast or something like that. Yeah.
Whereas time restricted eating is the same amount of calories, just in a smaller window.
Yeah.
So I think trying that initially could be a good way to try and start hitting your maintenance, and then from there
Don't delve into a deficit.
delve into a deficit or whatever.
Because what we recommend typically, and what I do this with clients as well, when you start off a new diet and you're trying to lose weight initially, you want to start at maintenance or even just slightly below, but nothing too crazy, so that you can find out whether that works for you. People don't know their baselines. And so you need to figure out, first of all, how much food is normal for me, so I can go, how much less do I have to eat to achieve the goal? Not just go, all right, I'm going to start eating chicken and broccoli every meal and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And you will be tempted to just go straight into a deficit because that is your goal. But we do really need to find the baseline.
Yeah. If you've got an idea of your baseline
already,
then go for gold. But if you have no idea and you're just stepping in for the first time, you got to establish a baseline.
Yeah. And the reason for that is you might put yourself in a deficit greater than you actually need to, and then put your body into a stressful,
severely stressed out state. And
yeah,
you might knock off a kilo or two real quick, but you're going to feel like rubbish within a week or
and
two.
you could mess up your hormones.
Yeah.
And mess up your sleep, and then all of a sudden you're not losing weight anymore.
Unfortunately, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
It greatly upsets me.
They just jump straight into 1,200 calories.
Oh, 800 calories. They read it in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a nightmare. Like,
yeah.
hit maintenance, see how much food you can get. Let's rephrase this. See how much food you can get away with eating and maintaining weight.
Not gaining, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How much food can I eat without gaining weight? And then...
That's a fun game to play for a lot of people.
That is going to be a fun game. And then when you find out what your maintenance is, then you can think about
drop in.
Yeah.
So we'd recommend to start with, estimate your maintenance based on a very simple equation that John's given me is just your body weight in kilograms multiplied by 32.
Yep.
And so that'll give you your caloric requirement.
Yeah.
Ballparkish.
Ballpark. So obviously if you have more lean tissue, it might be more.
Yep.
If you're less lean tissue and more fat, it might be less. However, try that as a calorie initially. If you start gaining weight, then you can reduce it.
Yep.
If you start losing weight,
then you're either good or you can increase it.
Or you can increase it, right? So
yeah. And so do that for 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, I
also,
think
prove to yourself that you can stick to a diet while it's not too intense.
correct.
Because once crunch time comes and you're starting to get hungry and you can't even deal with eating normal amount of food,
Yeah.
yeesh.
Yeah.
All right, so that's your goal. Goal 1 for the process is find your maintenance.
Yep. And
Goal
then,
1.2 is put yourself into a slight deficit somehow.
somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be restricting calories generally. It could be restricting fat. It could be restricting carbohydrates specifically.
Yep. It could be the intermittent fasting, whatever you want.
Yeah,
decide
you
to
could
do.
chop out a meal.
Yep, that's a journey you have to take on your own.
Yeah. We do suggest, though, that you maintain protein
Protein.
intake.
Absolutely.
So
Always
if you
and
do
forever.
chop out a meal, maybe bump up your protein in your other meals.
Elsewhere. Yeah.
And in a deficit, we typically want, you want 1.6 grams per kg of body mass.
Yep.
And in a deficit, there might be some evidence to suggest up to 2 grams per kg of body mass is beneficial for maintaining
your protein higher.
Yeah.
While in a deficit, absolutely.
So,
So when it comes to nutrition, I usually have your 3 priorities for dieting, and that's calorie intake first. Secondary is get enough protein.
Cool.
Thirdly is get enough fat or minimum recommended fat, which is
Yes.
typically like what, 0.7 grams per kilogram.
yes,
Yeah.
and I like 1 gram.
You like one? Yeah.
But
fair
but I usually deal with people who have more performance
enough. Goals.
goals.
Yeah. If your
and-
goal is strictly fat loss,
Yeah,
get
0.7.
enough fat. A lot of people cut the fat too low, and that'll start messing with you.
Yeah, because fat is what we need to make cell walls. It's what we need for fat-based hormones. It's what we need to transport fat nutrients.
Which, if you want more information on that, we did a podcast on
Oh,
it a
yeah,
couple
yeah,
weeks back, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
we delved into it.
I think fat is I think it's very
Very important. So
very
don't go too low on it.
Yeah.
All right. So you've hit your calories, you've maintained your protein, you're doing this on a daily basis, and you're hitting minimal fat, and then you're good to go. You do that, and your nutrition is basically covered.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of adherence.
Correct.
Oh, we didn't talk about the amount of deficit. So when you're putting yourself into a deficit, somewhere between 250 to 500 is a maintainable deficit for a long period of time, especially if you have, for instance, 10 kilograms to lose.
Yep.
Yep, you can push it higher into a deficit, but remember, the deeper into the deficit you go, the more intense it'll be, the harder it'll be to stick to, and the shorter amount of time it takes you to lose a significant amount of weight, the more likely you are to regain it.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the big risk.
That's my scare for like 1,000 calorie deficits is
The regain.
Is the regain.
Is people,
And-
yeah, which is why you need a plan after you hit the thing. And if you have a really small amount of time you want to knock off the weight, which usually most people do, then the 1,000 calorie deficit after more than like 3 weeks is going to start to really suck, and it's going to really test your mental fortitude.
Yeah.
So people can't stick to it for long. I don't think anyone can, unless you're like psychotic. Or Pete, yeah. So taking breaks from that. But if you're going to set yourself to a deep deficit, then take breaks. And when I say take breaks, I mean like take whole weeks.
And it's a maintenance week.
Maintenance week. So you do like 3 weeks on, 1 week off. 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Or something like that to maintain hunger levels, to maintain sanity.
And it sounds like a deload.
Yeah. You
Doesn't
can
it?
couple it with a deload.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we actually did this for Adam last year, where he would do 3 to 4 weeks of dieting in
Mm-hmm.
a deficit
And hard training.
and hard training, and then on his
5th week?
5th week, or
I think it was
fourth,
5th week,
it's
yeah.
usually 5th week for you.
Yep.
We had a deload where he did less training, and he ate more food.
And
Felt-
it was wonderful.
Felt fantastic, and then he was resensitized to weight loss the following week.
And it
So-
it re-leveled out my hunger as well. So like by the end of that maintenance week, I wasn't as hungry as I was, like anywhere near as much. And then you can go back into deficit pretty much refreshed.
Yep.
And that was even at a quite low body fat percentage.
Yeah.
So that was me getting decently lean.
You were pretty diced at that
And
point.
then still, by the end of that rest week, I was still being like, I don't really feel like eating.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good strategy. So if you're going to do that, do it smart. So that's
Yeah.
why I wouldn't recommend it for most people. Unless you've got like some kind of supervision. Like I do it with my clients. We'll do
Yeah.
that sort of approach. And it
refeed.
can be very effective.
Yeah, definitely. But you could blow out, right? So there's
Yeah, you
always the
can
risk.
blow out. So you got to make sure. Well, the beauty of having a coach is that I'm there to make sure if something happens, you're okay. And usually, like it does mess with your head a lot, especially clients that are quite overweight. Like
They don't want to eat
they
maintenance.
don't want to eat maintenance, and when
Yeah.
they eat maintenance, the thing is their weight's going to go back up. Fluid retention, like just the mass in your bowels, like
Increased fiber retention in the bowel.
Mm-hmm.
Your glycogen's going to be loaded, and for every gram of glycogen, you get 2.7 grams of water. Bang! Like all of
Yeah.
a sudden, you're filled. You're
filled
filled
back
up.
up like a sponge, and so that might be 2 or 3 for 4 kilos more that you just out of nowhere.
But you can't gain that much fat in a week.
No. But psychologically, you've got to be either ready for that or have someone there that knows what you're in for. Yep. Anyway, so
That was the restriction.
that's a restriction.
And we're looking to lose, and in terms of weight, we're at only around 1% to 0.5%.
Per week.
Per week.
It's a sustainable, long-term approach.
So you got me, right? Let's say I'm 100 kilos. I'm
Yep.
pretty close to it.
Yep.
That would be a kilo a week
Initially.
max
Yeah.
initially, and that's going to reduce as I get leaner.
Yeah. So the leaner you get, the less And that's what people think. The leaner they get, they can still knock off like a kilo a week sort of thing. No.
Yeah.
Your deficit has to get much bigger.
Yeah.
Depending on your size.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. So we've got our goals so far. I hope everyone's writing these down if you've got a similar goal.
Yeah.
We'll do a recap at the end. Now on to exercise, our third part of the process to achieve this goal.
Maybe we can just call it the third pillar.
The third pillar,
People like talking about pillars, right? Maybe we
These
should
are the
just...
3 pillars for
Yeah.
health.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we've covered this before.
Yeah.
We definitely have.
I don't know. I don't know if we called them
long
pillars
term?
before, but I know of people
3
call
rocks?
Yeah, we
Is that
call
what
them
we
the
call them?
rocks.
Yeah. Pillars is good.
Pillars means like it's constructed, right? Rock is just kind of comes out of nowhere, right? All right.
Pillars are like planned. Rocks are just sitting there.
Yeah.
All right, so exercise. Coming back to the gym, I'm going to let John take this one because he planned out all of this one off of his pure brain power. How you should approach coming back in the new year for a beginner. So we're taking this plan as if someone's just stepped in, they haven't been training.
They haven't been training or haven't trained for a while.
Yeah, maybe like the silly season. Maybe they're taking a month off.
Yeah, and I think I'm doing a seminar on this.
Yeah. We're going to put
at some stage.
together a seminar.
But this is your
Probably come
taste.
February.
This is your taste test.
Taste test.
Okay. So initially, when you come back, one thing that can put people off, especially people new to the gym or people who haven't trained or don't like exercising, is DOMS or soreness from unaccustomed exercise. So what we should do when we come back, you might have the need or the feeling that you need to do all the work in the world in your first session. You need to hold back. You need to do less training in your first session and build it up, titrate up the amount of work that you do over a period of time so your body can become accustomed to the work and so you're not in bed or struggling to sit down on the toilet.
I'm guilty of this.
Yes.
When I came back from my Kentucky, it was like 6 weeks of just drinking and barely any sleep. I did like a leg day, and it was balls to the wall, and I had DOMS for like 9 days.
9 days.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like couldn't function.
I think after one of our lockdowns last year, we had like a 7 day, I think it was 7 days or just more than 7 days. And both of us went and did Bulgarian split squats.
Oh yeah.
Like max effort Bulgarian split squats in our first week. So we make this mistake too.
Yeah.
And after the actual session, not only did I get soreness for days, which I could handle, I actually felt violently ill for at least 20 minutes after my session because I was unaccustomed to the activity. So not only is it risky for you in the session, because it's just so stressful for your body, you might diminish your ability to train later in the week because you went too hard.
Off, yeah. And it's somewhat okay for us because we knew that would happen. Like we didn't pay attention to it, but if we sat down and thought about it, we knew that we were going to get.
Well, I mean, we really shouldn't have done that, but we can get away with it. But if you're not, like I said, if you're a beginner or you don't even like exercise, don't
bust yourself up.
Yeah,
because you really won't like coming in.
You want to try and at least make it manageable. So 1 to 2 sets per exercise starting off is a pretty good start.
Yep.
Right.
How many sessions per week?
And we're looking at 2 to 3 sessions and commit to 2, right?
Yep.
And then maybe say your third is a bonus. And yeah, me and Adam like full body sessions when we're dealing with 2 to 3 sessions per week, because if you're splitting the sessions, that's just not enough time between sessions for your muscle groups to see any sort of maintenance.
So you're stimulating, let's say your legs. You're stimulating your quads once a week with a leg day, or you get them twice or 3 times a week with 3.
Yep.
And you just don't do full leg days. You split it up.
Yeah, and it works wonders. And plenty of people, even advanced athletes, will use full body days.
Absolutely.
For like the rest of their lives. It's not like an unfeasible way to train going forward. But when you're starting out, it's definitely probably the best way to go, because let's say you do 2 sessions a week and you miss your third session, right? And that was, if you did a split session, you actually miss a whole body part.
Yeah.
Right? Or you miss chest and tries.
You start
it's
skipping
unlikely
leg day
that
accidentally, right?
Yeah, it's unlikely to be chest and tries that was missed, but you get the idea. Or depending on the person, right? Some people will skip the upper body day because they love legs, right? That does happen.
It does happen. I was going to say the gender difference.
Yeah,
That's 100% the difference.
Yeah. Usually.
Usually, very commonly.
Anyway, so what movements do we want to do in those full body days? We want to do a squat pattern. We want to do a hip hinge. We want to do a push and a pull. That's it.
Yep.
So that's 4 movements, and you can push and pull with your upper body
vertically or horizontally.
Yeah,
I'd recommend maybe alternating the two.
You could do,
That's
yeah.
what I do with a lot of clients is.
Yes, so say you got 2 sessions.
Yep.
Your one day could be the horizontal push-pull, and then the other day could be the vertical
Vertical
push-pull.
Magic.
Wonderful. And then you do squat and hip hinge both sessions.
Yep.
Yeah,
So a squat pattern being like a goblet squat.
Yep.
And your hip hinge being like John's favorite, the kettlebell swings.
the kettlebell swing.
Magic.
Yeah, enter the kettlebell
Into
swing.
the kettlebell swing. We had to get it in there somewhere.
yeah.
Can't go a podcast
Well-
without saying kettlebell swing.
Well, we did it last session. I maybe should have just asked Josh off the bat.
What do you think of kettlebell
what do you-
swings?
What do you think about kettlebells? Anyway, I think the kettlebell is probably a really good option, especially if you aren't even going to the gym, right? So you can buy a kettlebell and you can get through all those movement patterns with a weight and progress it for a period of time before you have to get another
Into the gym.
kettlebell.
Yeah.
Or even go to the gym.
Yeah, so maybe if people are nervous to get in the gym, because obviously it's a busy time of year, people that have never been to the gym before are going to be pretty intimidated walking into a gym that's full.
Yes.
So maybe they could just start off with something like this
Yes.
at home, build your confidence up a little bit, then you move into here, then you're that guy that trains kettlebells here, and that's like a unicorn. Like you rarely see someone walk in and they...
So I'm the unicorn?
Yeah, well,
Well, I don't even train kettlebells at the gym, do I really? I usually do that at home.
not too much, but you
Yeah.
only see a couple people every now and again pick up those
Yeah.
kettlebells and do something
Yeah.
impressive with them.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and
Like
so that
I'm-
should take 45 minutes?
Yeah, and that we didn't say this, but yeah, your sessions initially might only be half an hour. That's an amount of time that most people can commit to 2-3 times per week. And then you push that up to 45 minutes. And
Yeah.
voila.
Yep.
That's actually probably all you need to maintain your muscle mass while you're in a deficit. Bear in mind, that was our goal. Our goal is to lose 10
Yeah, our goal
kilos.
specifically, this is specific to losing 10 kilograms. So you want to maintain your muscle mass and you want to lose your fat mass.
Yeah.
That's the general goal of things.
And we've worked the whole body, and we've stimulated MPS, or muscle protein synthesis. We're maintaining the lean tissue because we're doing resistance exercise.
Yep.
And then we can aim on losing body fat.
Yep. And then you just measure your progress over time. It can be good with goals to set a time frame to hold you accountable to something. It can be tricky with weight loss goals because there's way too many variables in fat loss, right?
Yeah.
We're too much of a complex system. You don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people could say, yeah, I'm going to lose 10 kilos. I'm going to do it in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I doubt it. It's quite difficult to do that, and you never know what's going to happen. So I'd say set a time frame, but give yourself a large enough buffer,
Yep.
and then you can change the goalpost as you go, but don't give yourself too much leniency, I'd say. Because
Yeah.
like if you start...
It is really tricky because you might want to predict how much weight you're going to be losing every week, but depending on your non-exercise activity, depending on your hormone response to a deficit, depending on all these
Life
things,
factors, stress, sleep quality,
the
yeah.
amount of exactly. It's hard to ensure a certain amount of weight loss before a certain point.
Yeah.
But you should have, for most goals, you should have a time frame in which
Definitely.
you want to achieve it.
I like goals that are like by my birthday or by mid-year or by Christmas or something like that.
Yeah,
like
distinct time.
But giving yourself a year, like I think it's a quote from Elon Musk. It's like if you give yourself a year to clean your room, it's going to take you a year to clean your room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The goal should be relative to the actual task itself.
Yeah. If you think it's achievable in less time than that, set a reasonable time frame.
Well, let's just like spin that on its head, because I recently watched your story and you said that you want to do 200 squat this year. Yeah. Okay. What's a reasonable time frame for that?
Genuinely, I think end of the year.
Yeah, so that for that goal, that is end of the year stuff because
Yeah.
you're dialing it in. Do you
Yeah.
have any other goals that might have been a bit more short term? Well, maybe I can talk about the beast taming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I want to achieve pressing the 48 kilo kettlebell, pulling out the 48 kilo kettlebell, and pistol squatting the 48 kilo kettlebell by March the 20th.
By your birthday?
Well, it's before my
Before
birthday,
your birthday.
but my kettlebell course is on that day.
Okay, so you want to be a beast master before you start the kettlebell. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Sick.
I want to do it at the course.
All right, so you've got your outcome goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is be the Beastmaster.
Yeah, to be a Beastmaster, yeah. Not like actual beast, but like a kettlebell.
The kettlebell called the Beast.
Yeah.
So what's your daily, your goals breakdown? Like, what do you have to do on a
Well,
recurring basis?
I'm pressing 3 times a week. I'm doing pull-ups 3 times a week, and I'm doing pistols twice a week.
Cool.
So that's my process goal as I go, and then I'm accumulating more volume at each weight, trying to get to my goal.
Yeah, so progressively overloading, tracking, measuring,
Yeah, measuring.
and you can relatively predict
Yeah,
within reason
yeah, definitely.
how long
But
it'll take.
well, it's very hard for me to predict because it depends on how fast I respond to the training.
Yeah.
And I have already hit a hiccup with my pull-up, and I have to readjust my approach for that one. But like, you're only going to know that once you start doing your plan.
Yeah.
So with your weight loss goal, when you stop losing weight, then you got to think, well, is it because I'm not following the plan properly, or is it because my plan isn't working anymore?
Yes, it's troubleshooting.
Yeah.
That's
So
And
we
a lot
all
of
get
people
into
crumble
that.
at that point.
Yeah.
They go, it's not working, screw this. Yeah. So I challenge everyone to, when that occurs this year potentially, because fat loss will slow down eventually, things get in the way, and
Yeah.
you will need to adjust your approach. Depending on the person, it can be quite regularly, or it can be once or nonce, depending on if the person's just genetically flawlessly able to lose weight.
Or you just have that unicorn of a plan and it works.
Yeah,
perfect.
it works perfectly. But a lot of people will have to troubleshoot. And I challenge you to, when it comes time to that, to assess and troubleshoot rather than give up.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, please do that.
Please do that.
And if you need help, we're here. So if you want
Yeah,
to ask us,
obviously. Our little plug for the day is
Yeah.
like we run online coaching. You can have an ask of us.
Yeah.
I'm a nutritionist. I can help you with it.
Yeah.
There's other services that you can take on.
if you need,
If
right?
you need,
Yeah,
I
but
always
we'll-
say this. Whenever I do a consultation for like the freebies downstairs or something like that, I tell them, like, if you do what you plan to do and what we've talked about today, and you just start implementing more activity, you should start to get some fat loss, assuming you're not eating like a dickhead. If after like a month or 2 months you're not seeing any progress and you start thinking whether you should continue, please come back and see me.
Yeah.
I don't try and sell it on the spot, just because I don't like pushing it too much.
Yeah.
And if people aren't ready for it, they're not going to engage with it. And so
Definitely.
after 2 months, when they are starting to question themselves and they're not seeing any progress, I give them that in. Come and talk to me, because we can sort it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's important to troubleshoot, and it is best to bounce that ideas off someone else.
Especially someone experienced.
Yep.
And not charlatans and your grandma that once tried a juice diet or something like that.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own opinions on fat loss and nutrition. So, yeah, if you're going to troubleshoot, find a valid source.
Yeah.
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 Not just sort of Googling some stuff or watching some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Specific YouTube videos. I'm sure there's good
There's
stuff out
definitely
there.
good stuff,
But
but
there's also
it's,
a lot of
it's
shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
find someone you trust who knows what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, was there any other goals that we need to do to achieve this 10 kilos of fat loss? Do you reckon that's pretty much?
I think that's it, man.
All right. So let's run through that again so everyone can double check their notes. Step 1, goal 1. Set a bedtime alarm and a wake up alarm.
Yeah.
Yep. Step 2, optimize your sleep routine and your sleep environment. Step 3, figure out your maintenance
Correct.
calorie intake.
Yep.
Yep, do that for a week or 2. Step 4,
Get a calorie.
create a calorie deficit by some means.
Yep.
And within that, maintain protein and get minimal fat intake. Or get your minimal recommended fat intake.
Yeah,
Yes.
eat enough fat.
Eat enough fat.
Cool.
Cool. That's nutrition covered. And then stick to that. And then
Training.
training. Our next goal, I've lost track of the numbers. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So the next step would be training 2-3 times a week for 45 minutes. And then in those sessions, you want to do a squat, a hip hinge, which is driven from your hips.
Yep.
That could be a back extension, it could be a kettlebell swing,
Rack
could
pull,
be a
whatever
rack
it is,
pull,
yeah.
could be a deadlift. And you want to do a push and a pull, right? So that's an upper body movement pushing, upper body movement pulling. And then when you first get started, you only want to do 1 to 2 sets, and then you're going to build that out over the weeks as you accustom your body to the training.
To the workload.
Easy.
Cool. That's the roadmap. That's pretty much it. And then stick to it. Adherence.
Yes.
We've got one little arrow over in the corner. It just says adhere and an arrow pointing down. But
We didn't write anything.
we didn't write anything about adherence. Adherence is super important because it's the glue that holds it all together, right?
Yeah.
So have these goals written out, physical, tangible, that you can see, that you can work towards. Tell other people that you're going to achieve these goals so that you can't just think, no one will know if I don't do it.
Yeah.
That's a big one. We like to tell you guys our goals so that we have some accountability, and we tell each other so we hold each other accountable. If I don't aim for this 200 kilo squat at the end of the year, John's going to be like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Are you a little bitch?
Yeah, will I say that to you? Maybe. Depends if you get into
We'll
it or
find
not.
out at the end of the year. Yeah. And yeah,
At this stage, yeah, I think you will. I mean, you're not
I'm gonna try and
you're
look
not going to
up.
shy away from it.
no.
so,
Yeah. And it's going well so far, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look good.
They felt good. Yeah. Yeah. Adherence is key. Figure out what's going to be sustainable for you. That's why we set the bar quite, not low. I'm not undermining how hard this stuff is to do initially, but we're not telling you to go into the gym 5 days a week and train for an hour and a half.
No.
We're not telling you to just eat chicken, broccoli, and rice. And we're not telling you to try and sleep for 10 hours.
Yeah, try and start with the minimum, see what you get a response from the minimum,
Yep.
and then you can
Then you taper up.
and then you
If
build
you
up
need
from
to.
there.
Yeah. That you want to do the least amount of work to get the most results possible.
Yeah.
And then work your way up from there with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much for listening.
Hope you have a happy new year and a fantastic year ahead. I hope you've written down some of these plans and goals. John's done all of his goals in detail so far. I am yet to do it because I am slack.
Yeah.
But we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.